Dragons are a legendary species of mythical creatures which have fascinated masses of people for ages. The stories of dragons have been a part of folklore and fantasy around the world from time immemorial. In recent years, dragons have gotten so popular that a fantasy movie or a novel isn't complete unless it has got a dragon in it. Harry Potter had dragons, Lord of the Rings had dragons, and so did Game of Thrones. But what exactly these mythical beasts are? What is their origin? What is their history? And is there any scientific proof of their existence? These are some of the questions which we will try to answer in today's episode. Hello my dear darling people, my name is Sanatan Pagare and thanks for tuning into Bright Myth. The English word dragon comes from the Latin word draconem, which stands for huge serpent dragon, which comes from the ancient Greek drakon, meaning serpent, giant sea fish. Dragons are widely believed to be a serpentine species, but this belief changes from region to region. In the Western cultures since the Middle Ages, dragons have been depicted as giant fire-breathing winged creatures with 4 legs, whereas in the East, dragons are usually giant serpents with superhuman intelligence. Dragons have been depicted in many different forms over the ages, and the classical image of dragons has changed more than any other mythical creature in history, and that is because dragons exist in apparently every single culture around the world. Some of the earliest records of dragons and dragon-like creatures would be traced to the mythologies of the Near East, such as that of the ancient Mesopotamians, where dragons appear as giant snakes. Almost all Indo-European cultures, from Scandinavia to India, have prevalent stories of storm gods slaying giant dragon-like creatures. In the West, the dragons are often portrayed in stories as monstrous creatures, which are to be tamed usually by the protagonists of these stories. The dragons in these stories live in caves or on the mountains where they hoard treasures. These dragons are also believed to have a monstrous appetite for flesh. The Western dragons are usually portrayed as portlier creatures with claws and massive wings. They have a lizard-like body and have scales on their back. The most referred to Eastern form of a dragon is the Chinese dragon, and these dragons are associated with good fortunes and are believed to have power over rain. The Chinese custom of dragon dancing is associated with the power that the dragons possess over rain. In many East Asian cultures, dragons are often the companions of deities and demigods. The Chinese dragons do not usually have wings, but they are able to fly with magic. If the depiction of dragons in Chinese culture is closely observed, it can be seen that the dragon is a hybrid of many different animals. They are believed to have a head like that of a camel, antlers like that of a deer, claws like that of a tiger, ears like that of a bull, and neck like that of a snake. The Chinese dragons are not believed to breathe fire, and in case they do, they are believed to be sent from heavens as a punishment. Now, since the dragons are present in the folklore of almost every major culture around the world, it is really difficult to pinpoint where their origin is. But we can still look for the reasons why the myth of the dragons came into being. Anthropologist David E. Jones, in his book An Instinct for Dragons, presented a theory for what created the myth of the dragons. He argued that the dragons are so prevalent in ancient folklore around the world because of the embedded innate fear of predators in the human mind. He said, like monkeys fear snakes and large cats, the humans fear predatory creatures like pythons, birds of prey, and other large animals. And the combined fear of all these creatures is what created the myth of the dragons. Folklorist Adrienne Mayer argued in her book, The First Fossil Hunters, Dinosaurs, Mammoths, and the Myth in Greek and Roman Times, that the myth of the dragons may have been materialized because of the ancient discoveries of dinosaur fossils and prehistoric animals. She argued that the dragon lore of northern India may have been inspired by the ancient discoveries of oversized bones in the foothills of the Himalayas, and the monster of Troy in the Greek culture may have been inspired by the discoveries of fossils of the Cemeterium, which was a prehistoric giraffe-like creature. Robert Bluss, in his book The Origin of Dragons, argued that the myth of the dragons exists because of the ancient culture speculating the reasons behind natural phenomena. Now let us discuss the different iterations of the dragon-like creatures in the cultures around the world. A pep was a giant serpent in the ancient Egyptian mythology that resided in Duat, which is the Egyptian underworld. A pep is the closest thing to a dragon which we can find in the ancient Egyptian culture. The ancient Egyptians believed that the setting of the sun is caused by Ra, as he descended to Duat to battle a pep every evening. The Egyptians also believed that the natural disasters like earthquakes and thunderstorms are caused when a pep rose in the underworld. In the Vedas, and more specifically in the Rig Veda, there is a story of Indra, the god of thunder, battling Vratra, a giant serpentine creature which brought droughts on earth. In this story, Indra uses his Vajra, which is a thunderbolt, to kill Vratra to make way for the rain. In another Rigvedic tale, Indra battles Visvarupa, a three-headed dragon-like creature, in order to release his cattle which Visvarupa had previously captured. In Bhutan, Druk is a thunder dragon, which is also the national symbol of the country, and Bhutan is often called the land of the thunder dragon. The Bhutanese culture from ancient times has revolved around dragons and dragon-like creatures, and the Bhutanese folklore is full of stories with dragons. In ancient China, the people identified themselves as the gods of the dragons, because in the ancient Chinese culture, the dragons were seen as a symbol of evolution and humans were considered the most evolved. The presence of the dragon in the Chinese culture goes back thousands of years, and this has been attested as a number of statues of dragons dating back 5 millennia before Christ were discovered in Hainan in 1987. In the Chinese legends, it is believed that the Yellow Emperor was closely related to the dragon species, and by the end of his reign he was immortalized into a dragon as he ascended to heaven. In another legend, another ruler, the Yan Emperor, was born after his mother telepathically prayed to a mythical dragon for a child. The Chinese consider themselves as the descendants of the Yellow and the Yan Emperors, and that is why sometimes they like to refer to themselves as the descendants of the dragons. The dragons were used as a symbol for many Chinese ruling dynasties, as a majority of these dynasties claim to have been descended from the dragons. In some Chinese legends, a ruler can be born with a birthmark in the form of a dragon, as in one famous Chinese legend, a boy born with such a birthmark to a family of peasants grows up to overthrow a ruling dynasty and becomes the new emperor of the land. The dragons are one of the most important parts of the Chinese culture, and the Chinese folklore is full of stories of the dragons. The Chinese celebrate a number of festivals which are solely dedicated to the dragons, and the dragons have been the symbol of China for ages. The Koreans and the Japanese also have dragons as a major part of their culture. The Korean depiction of the dragons is somewhat similar to that of the Chinese, the only difference being the Korean version has a long beard. The Japanese dragon myths are an amalgamation of the legends which travel to Japan from countries like India and China. The Japanese dragon legends often depict the dragons as water deities, just like the dragon legends of the original countries. Now before we go any further, if you've liked the episode so far, please make sure to like the episode, share the episode, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell icon for future content. This video is also available on IGTV, and there's a link for Brightman's Instagram page in the description. This episode is also available on all the podcasting platforms like Spotify, iTunes, and Google Podcasts. The links for those are also available in the description. Please use those links and follow us over there, it would really help us a lot. And if you want to follow us on Instagram, the links for that are in the description as well. And with that said, let's jump back into the episode. As we discussed before, the Western dragon is very different from their Eastern counterparts, and that can be seen in the dragon lore which is prevalent in Europe since the times of the ancient Romans and Greeks. In ancient Greek, the word drakon was also used to refer to a snake, but it usually meant a giant serpent with supernatural abilities. The first written account of the dragons in the ancient Greek culture could be found in Iliad, where Agamemnon is shown wearing a breastplate with the symbol of a three-headed dragon etched on it. He was also shown wielding a sword with a blue dragon motif. In another legend, Greek god Zeus fights a monster called Typhon, which has 100 serpent heads which breathe fire. The story of Hercules slaying Hydra is also a very famous legend in the ancient Greek dragon lore. The ancient Roman poet Virgil, in his poem Culex, described a shepherd coming across and fighting a giant dragon-like creature to which he referred to as serpents and Draco. And this could be cited as one of the first accounts of dragon-like creatures in the ancient Roman literature. There are many more famous dragon stories from ancient Rome, but we are not going to go in deep there today. In the old Nordic literature, dragons appear in the poem Grimnismal in the Poetic Edda, where the dragon Niohoga is portrayed to be gnawing around the world tree. In the Nordic mythology, there is a story of Thor, the god of thunder, coming across a dragon-like creature when he goes on a boat to the outer sea with his giant companion Heimnir. The myth of the dragons in Western Europe during the Middle Ages developed from the stories which reached there from ancient Greece and Rome. One of the most famous stories of the dragons is that with the child prophet Merlin, where he informs Celtic warlord Vortigern when he fails to build a tower on Mount Snowdon, that it is happening because underneath the foundation of the tower there is a pool of two sleeping dragons, a red one and a white one. The two dragons immediately start fighting once discovered. Merlin prophesies looking at the two dragons fight that the white dragon will win the duel, symbolizing the English conquest of Wales. Other famous dragon tales of Western Europe include the legend of St. George and the dragon. If you want to learn more about this legend, you can go ahead and Google it. It's a very popular story. In recent years, dragons have been famously depicted in J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit, J.R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire, J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter, and many more. Some of these books have been cinematically adapted, which has brought the classical Western image of the dragons as we know and love to life. Dragons have been adapted in video games and a number of role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons. Dragons have become such an important part of pop culture today that more and more movies, video games, and books are adapting them every day because of the high demand that the creators observe amongst their audience. But has there been any scientific proof for the dragon's existence? And a simple answer to that is no. There have been many hypotheses which researchers have proposed over the years for the existence of the dragons, but most of them so far are just theories, and we don't have any solid proof which could establish that the dragons aren't a myth, but they did exist once, or they do exist now. One of my most favorite theories about the existence of the dragon species is the one where the researchers and dragon enthusiasts claim that the dragons did exist, but did not fossilize because they had bird-like bone structure, and that is why it was never proven that dragons existed historically. But in the end of the day, it is still just a theory. Feel free to discuss what you think of the dragon's existence in the comment section below, and write down which Game of Thrones dragon was your favorite. Mine was the Dead Viserion. And with that said, see you next time. Bye!